Another question you can ask your client is just about their down payment. So we'll talk more about this when we get into the contract, but when you write an offer for someone, you're going to specify how much is their down payment versus how much are they borrowing from the lender. When you're asking that question is what is their down payment, where is that coming from? The lender will get into this in more detail, but it's good for you to have a sense if they've at least thought about it, they know where it's coming from, either they have a down payment or they don't, or they are going to borrow it, which is problematic, or they're going to be gifted it from a family member. Do they have it now, or is it coming from a settlement, from a lawsuit of some kind? It could be any number of different things where the funds for down payment are coming from, but it's good to ask that question early on. Don't beat around the bush. If there's not a down payment, it's really difficult. And the reason I mentioned the purchase agreement is one of the things the seller can ask you for is proof of that down payment. So it's a good practice, even in the early conversations with the buyer. It's kind of a salesmanship judgment call of how early in the conversation, but at some point, getting a sense of that down payment and the source of it, because when you go to make an offer, your offer will be stronger if you're providing proof of that down payment along with the offer, in addition to a pre-qualification letter from the lender. That's one of the good reasons why it makes sense to just have an open conversation about the down payment and source of down payment as early on as possible. In this conversation about pre-qualifying a buyer, so far we've just been talking about if they're financed. There will be buyers who are paying cash. And so that is another type of qualifying a buyer. So if they say, hey, I'm making a cash offer, I have cash of this amount, maybe because I've sold another property or I just have saved the money, whatever the case might be, they're making a cash offer. That's another form of qualifying them. And the typical thing to ask for in that process would be a proof of funds, or POF. You'll see that referenced. That usually is just a recent bank statement in the name of the client. And by recent, preferably 30, not more than 60 days old on the date of a statement. And the name on the statement should match the name of the person who's writing the offer. So if the statement is in John's name, but the offer is going to be from Mary, that's not a very good proof of funds, because the seller is going to see that and say, well, Mary's making the offer, but we don't actually know if Mary has any money. We know John has money, but he's not on the offer. So that verification coming from being recent and the name matching the name that you're going to be writing the offer in. So that's another form of pre-qualifying. You just want to make sure that it's there. A lot of times, a really common situation is that people will say, hey, I'm making an all cash offer, but a little more digging turns out they're making that cash offer with proceeds from the sale of another property, and that property has not sold. So that they actually don't have the cash. That's a whole nother discussion about making a contingent offer, but you want to really find that out, because maybe they are qualified to make a contingent offer, but that's not really a cash offer until that property has sold. And that would prompt you to ask a handful of other questions like, that property isn't sold, is it an escrow? Oh, it's not an escrow. Is it listed? It's not listed. When are you going to list it? Can I help you list it? If it's in a different market, do you have an agent there that you're already working with, or could I help connect you with someone to make sure that that property is handled well to set your purchase here up for success? Just some things to go a little deeper when you're talking about pre-qualifying someone. So hopefully that helps, and let's keep going. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you learned something, or if this helped you solve a problem, follow me for more.